Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show, everyone. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, hey, how you doing? Welcome on to the program. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news. We have a ton of different articles and things that we can talk about. And yeah, I think we're going to start off with the Epic versus Apple. We learned a lot last week. We've been pretty hands off with that story, even though it's going to have a lot of effect on the future of the tech world. So we'll cover that, what we know, and what we have learned over the past couple of days. And we have that story, a lot more. We have the maker of a supersonic jet company that you might not have even heard of quietly goes out of business. It seems like air travel just is not that profitable lately. We have that. We have artificial intelligence doing artificial intelligence things. We have Florida man added again with a Florida politician making it illegal for social media platforms to quote-unquote deplatform, and we're going to talk about the ethics of that, all that and more. Everyone, welcome into the program. So before we get started, everyone, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows. It's all up to date. We're all caught up, and yeah, you can find the podcast. If you can't listen to us live on IRN, you can of course listen to us. The second best place would be, of course, the podcast. Also there, you'll find our live video feed, which you can also find over at twitch.tv/computeramerica. Find us on social media. Reach out to us there if you'd like to, if you'd like to ask us a question or get us to get a company here on the program. That you'd like to hear from. We love talking to a lot of different people about a lot of different topics, and hey, we love talking to you as well. Now, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. Here we go. Okay, everyone. So our first story, as I said before, is going to be this Epic versus Apple one. And, again, for everyone who's wondering, well, I'm not really an Apple user and I'm not really, I don't really play Fortnite. So what's the big deal here? The big deal is that this might have implications on really everything that the Apple Store is and how apps are monetized and who can take a cut, how much is a fair cut. This is really fundamental things for the ecosystem that so much commerce is done in, and it's whatever happens here is going to affect a lot of people. And right now it looks like, well, Apple may still win, which you may think, won't affect that many people, but this is still giving us a huge look into how Apple operates, how it operates the App Store, and what is, really going on behind the scenes there that a lot of us, just common people, who aren't developers or, who don't really have to pay this cut, why apps are as expensive as they are. Because think about it. Back in the day, everything was just 99 cents and you got all of your apps. And nowadays, some of them, a lot more of them are free, but a lot more of them have in-app purchases that, trust me, you can get past 99 cents way faster. And this is a hint as to why that is. So everyone, this is coming to us from BBC Tech. And Mr. James Clayton talking about Epic Games is suing Apple over the way it runs its App Store. As we all know, Apple makes Epic pay a 30% commission on in-app payments. The judge may take weeks, if not months, to make a ruling, but during the 3-week trial, we've seen some interesting revelations. And, if you ever wonder, even though Fortnite was hugely popular and still is very, very popular, you couldn't find it on the iOS store. You couldn't find it. They wanted to circumvent Apple altogether and offer it through their website, but obviously Apple has a very closed ecosystem that you can't just do that. You can't just offer people a link and go to a website and download an Apple app. No, it has to come through the Apple iOS store. And really what kind of kicked this off was, of course, their massive popularity and how much money they were actually making off of all this. And at the same time, whenever they, let's say they sold a Fortnite skin on the PC, $1 goes to Fortnite and Epic Games, and Epic Games gets to essentially keep that $1. If that same purchase happened to be on an iPhone, then hey, they make 70 cents instead of $1, just because of where it happened. Same game, same asset, usable cross-platform, but they were making way less money on their services. So yeah, that kicked off this whole thing, and now here we have these two companies, these two multi-billion-dollar companies, arguing about what the definition of a game actually is. They said that Epic wanted to broaden its lawsuit to all apps on the App Store. Apple wished to narrow the scope to just the makers of games. Hence, a lengthy argument as to whether Fortnite is an actual game, and as news site The Verge reported, it's actually quite difficult to define. Fortnite may look very much like a game, however, Epic believes that it's more than that. Its Vice President of Marketing, Matthew Weisinger, said during the trial that it was in fact a quote-unquote metaverse. And yeah, that gets you into some questions that obviously I think that 99% of people out there would say, yeah, Fortnite's a game. I don't know many people who go there to simply hang out in Fortnite and do. Of course, there's and this is where it gets a little murky. There have been concerts, there have been movies, there have been premieres, there have been social events that aren't strictly about the game, but at the same time, they happen in the game. So one would argue that that is also still the game, but Epic believes that it is also the metaverse. So any app that delivers an experience, which would be a lot more apps, which would be harmed by Epic's lawsuit, which means that the settlement would be much, much larger. Still, they're saying that it's one of the remarkable things about Fortnite. We're building this thing called the metaverse, a social place, he said. That sounds like Epic dancing on the head of a pin. However, other games like Roblox describe themselves less as a game and more of a platform for people to live in a virtual world. Again, so, actually defining what a game is, and that these companies are arguing, is this a game? Is this an experience? Those definitions matter because, again, it's the difference between all video game makers and all app makers, which would be a very large subsection of the Apple Store. And obviously, if this were to somehow go wonky on Apple, that is also very important because they could just change the rules for game makers and game developers. But if Epic wins this particular side of the argument, then yeah, Apple would have to change everything about their iOS store completely. So yeah, that definition matters a lot. Obviously, Tim Cook last week took the stand, and he gave evidence on Friday for the first time at the trial. They mentioned that essentially a lot of the legal experts here gave him pretty good reviews, saying that he was clear, concise, he gave his arguments, but he also posed a very carefully structured pattern of ignorance, where he said, lawyers were asking him, how much does this make? How much, what share does this do? How much do you have you paid to make this service like Google pop up automatically? And time again, Tim Cook gave what evidence I'm sure was already given, but did not offer any new revelations himself, which is essentially what you want from your CEO. You don't want him to drop any bombshells on this particular court case because it is so expensive. So now, with that being said, Epic pays other firms more than it gives Apple, saying that details about the inner workings of Epic were laid out at the trial. The Washington Post reported that between January 2017 and October 2020, Epic paid $237 million to Apple for Fortnite. So these are all in commissions. And again, that's what that 30% is. So they're looking at $237 million over the course of 3 years to Apple. However, that is less than the annual amounts it paid to other gaming platforms, where, for example, it paid $245 million to Microsoft and $451 million to Sony. Now remember, the most popular platforms that these things are on was like the PlayStation Network, the PC far behind, the Xbox was like half the user base of what Sony was, and mobile was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 8 or 9% as opposed to, Sony's 45% or whatever it was, and Xbox is like 20 something percent. Mobile was like a fraction of what these others are commanding. But you have to remember at the same time, it's only, I'm going to say this and I know how it sounds, it's only 20 million less than Microsoft, 200 million less than Sony, but still those are much larger platforms. It is probably disproportionately larger, but at the same time, it is less than they paid to other platforms. Now, Epic's argument here is that Sony and Microsoft sell their consoles at a loss, so need to charge developers. Conversely, iPhones bring in big profits for Apple. That's how they're hand-waving that. That one does not feel like it's going to hold up to any kind of scrutiny. It should not matter how Microsoft and really how Microsoft and Sony manage their hardware side of their business, and say that, they need to make it up on the back end. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter if they make one bad business decision, that it's okay to rip it off here but not there. That does not seem like it's going to hold up. Still, Epic's CEO said that he hates the App Store paid promotion, and a curious quirk you may have noticed in the App Store is that if you type a certain app into the search, you may well be offered another app as the first hit. Happens all the time. Paid promotion, it happens in Google searches, happens in really any kind of search function out there. Yeah, people want to be at the top, and they're going to charge you money to do that. Now, they're saying that Apple does this on the App Store, and it makes Epic's chief executive Tim Sweeney extremely cross. I've never even heard of anyone getting upset that paid promotion exists, because, again, anything with a search function will probably have that. In an email to Apple in 2018, he said that he found it super frustrating that Fortnite is not the first result when customers search for the text Fortnite. Which they even have a picture of his email right here, and he says that as an iOS user, and again, this is this is Tim Sweeney. It's a tweet from Tom Warren, but Tim Sweeney getting angry about this, saying that I just set up a new iPhone and installed the 12 apps I commonly use. None were the first search result when searching the App Store for the app's exact name. In fact, Dropbox wasn't even visible on the first page. Google bought the top result, and Apple put its Files app ahead of Dropbox in line for the search Dropbox. As a developer, it's super frustrating that Fortnite is not the first result when customers search for the text Fortnite. Some days Microsoft buys the search result, other days it's another competitor. I can only imagine how an indie developer must feel when they're trying to make a living in those $900 billion company that runs the App Store, sells their search result to a $730 billion company. It's an act. He's saying that this is an awful practice and should stop. He has kind of a point, just a little bit of a point. I also feel like if you search for an app with the exact name, maybe the exact name should come up first in the results, even before paid promotion, even before anything else. If you search an exact name, then the exact app should come up first. But I also feel like if people are searching for file management or networking or malware, or if they're searching for video games, something general, something like a search term, maybe that should be something that you can have paid promotion for, and something a little bit more general. But again, frustrating. Like, at the same time, let's see, how is Epic Games worth? He's sitting here complaining about these. At the time, back in 2018, you had Apple. You had Apple at like $900 billion. You had Microsoft at like $780 billion. At the same time, now they were concerned about them selling, billion-dollar, they were concerned about selling search results to other billion-dollar companies. Epic Games, like right now, as of this moment, is worth $30 billion. At the time, they were making like, what was it, $9 billion, or no, was it like $9 billion a month? It was billions of dollars, like $1 or $2 billion a month off of Fortnite. Like, at the time, man, they were making a lot of money, and they were probably doing more revenue than some of these billion-dollar companies that he was complaining about. Again, another point that's probably not going to hold up too well in court. So the last part that they say is that most of Apple's App Store revenue comes from gaming apps. Mr. Cook was tight-lipped about the App Store's profit margins. However, when asked by the judge, he confirmed that the majority of the revenue on the App Store comes from games. Something that I didn't know, but also makes a bit of sense. You have like calorie tracking, fitness apps. You have file management, productivity apps, file sharing apps, things like that. But by and large, it makes sense that people will put more money where they want to put money. Less where they have to, more where they want to. You will look for a free app, or kind of the cheapest app to do something that you have to. But when it comes to video games, hey, you may want to spend a bit more because it's fun. It's something that you want. And so, with all that being said, yep, Apple just confirmed that that video games are their most profitable sector, and that would also explain why Apple has developed the Apple Arcade. They know that it's their most profitable, and hey, if they can make their own video games and charge people for in-app purchases in their own video games, then hey, more the merrier. On top of that, if they get people gaming on iOS more, and if they get people to, download other games more, then it makes sense that Apple, would really want to foster this idea that your iPhone is a viable place to play video games. So there you have it. So with that being said, what came next from the judge will worry Apple, and this quote makes a lot of sense. It sounds like they have the right judge here, saying that, but you could also monetize it in a different way, couldn't you? I mean, that is, the gaming industry seems to be generating a disproportionate amount of money relative to the IP that they are giving them and everybody else. In a sense, it is almost as if they're subsidizing everybody else. So there you go. That quote is very telling, and kind of maybe just a line of questioning, but it could also be where the judge is really thinking, kind of where he's taking this right now. And that's saying that maybe video game companies are being charged too much. Now, obviously, there's a lot of ways that Apple could argue that and that whole thing, but still, the judge thinks that, hey, at least today, the judge is thinking maybe video game developers are, being charged disproportionately because they are generating so much revenue. So there you have it. Of course, to Apple, they could take that as, oh, we got to charge everyone else more. But there you go. They're saying that, but even if Epic doesn't win, the company has done a good job at publicizing what it claims are unfair business practices from Apple, issues that won't go away even if Apple is victorious. The way that this all shakes out, and again, who knows, but I really do feel like Apple's going to win the case, for Epic to, come in and tear this down. There have been other challenges before, and Apple has struck them down every time, but I really do think Apple's going to win, but I also feel like this puts pressure and a lot of insight into how Apple operates, and with the rest of the industry, and particularly looking at Microsoft and Steam, and Sony and a lot of other companies, when you develop the platform, when you have the operating system in the platform, charging 30% is outrageous. Like, that may have been the standard back in the day, but that standard has come down to 10%, 15%, 12%, 7%. I really do feel like this is going to force Apple to admit that, hey, our percentage, our share, our cut is outdated, and maybe the model needs to be updated. Again, I'm really a fan of how, companies like, what do you call it? Not Epic, although I think they own it. Unreal Engine do it, where, $0 to $1 million, you don't owe a thing. That's not enough money. They're not going to worry about it. You're an up and coming studio. It's whatever. Anything over $1 million, you get paid. You get charged a certain amount for using the, the software. And I think there should be an upper limit to that. So it would fall into categories like Fortnite, where, let's say, if you earn, or if you do $300 million in revenue or something like that, anything over that, you've paid your due, you've done your job. And hey, Apple would take less of a cut from those super successful games. That's how I feel it should shake out and how I think it's going to work. But it's up to Apple. It's not going to be any kind of legal binding thing that's going to make Apple drop that revenue share, or those percentages. It's going to be Apple themselves, and if they actually do it, who knows? It is huge business for them. So we will definitely wait and see. But Apple is a very, very tightly run company. So who knows? So something moving the markets a little bit today, and why I'm surprised that, this hasn't had a bigger impact over the last week. There's been a lot of news about Bitcoin. Bitcoin being banned in China, cryptocurrency in general being banned from being used in China. And, well, here's one issue that the rest of the world has really been facing. If you ever wonder why those graphics cards and GPUs are so hard to get your hands on, well, you have operations like this that you are competing that you are competing with. If you just want a graphics card for your computer, you are also up against literal factories that are farming cryptocurrency off of the back of GPUs. So it's big business that you have to take down. But here we go. China is taking it another step further, where owning it and using it, again, we're kind of outlawed and frowned upon and that kind of thing. Now the next set of regulations is looking to ban Bitcoin mining, which should come as no surprise. That's obviously where it was heading next. They say that Bitcoin took investors on another roller coaster ride over the weekend after a top regulator in China announced a crackdown on mining, a new tack in the country's ongoing fight against the cryptocurrency. The government will crack down on Bitcoin mining and trading behavior and resolutely prevent the transfer of individual risk to the society. That was from, that's a long title. But still, that comes from China, and saying that the wording of the statement did not leave much leeway for cryptocurrency mining. They mentioned that when all mining activities are banned in China, it will be a turning point for the fate of Bitcoin, as a large chunk of its processing power is taken out of the picture. Now, obviously, when it comes to mining, the less people mining, the less competition for that mining, you would think that, Bitcoin would come to a halt because it doesn't have all the power. But no, actually, a block takes a certain amount of work, and the more people who are trying to do that work, the more competition means that it will get tougher by itself, and people will be awarded less Bitcoin because they are doing a lesser percentage of the work. The work can be done by anyone. And, even if you take 1,000 people out, that just means that let's say there's 1,000 people mining for Bitcoin. If you take out 990 of them and you leave them with 10 people, those 10 people are going to be able to mine that Bitcoin about as fast as the 1,000, because the rate at which Bitcoin is added to the blockchain is at a set amount. How that set amount gets divided amongst the people is how many people are actually mining for the Bitcoin. Now, admittedly, the operations that we're looking at here are immense, and Bitcoin and the committee behind Bitcoin might have to make some changes because there won't be as much processing power. But still, the amount of Bitcoin should still continue to flow at the same given rate. Now, the Chinese government isn't just worried about financial stability. A commentary piece on Xinhua News elaborated that the government's stance voicing concerns about Bitcoin's role in money laundering, drug trafficking, and smuggling, which you could imagine are pretty big concerns in a country like China. It also mentions Bitcoin's profligate energy use. Big word, who knows? Anyways, last week, China warned financial institutions not to participate in crypto transactions or related services. So there you go. I'm sure that they gave that warning before they actually released the legislation so that Chinese businesses would actually dump their cryptocurrency if they were holding any, and then they were going to legislate and ban it so that their own companies didn't take too large of a financial hit from their own regulations. So, yep, you saw a massive dump of cryptocurrency, and last week, yeah, you saw the unfurling of that. Now, they said that the U.S. Treasury Department announced that businesses must report cryptocurrency, that any transactions that are greater than $10,000 to the Internal Revenue Services. Yeah, I mean, good luck with that. Again, cryptocurrency by nature is pretty deregulated and hard to track. I'm not saying it's impossible to track. They have found individuals who are using strictly Bitcoin, but man, getting people to self-report, I feel like you're going to have an easier time telling waiters and waitresses to self-report their tips so they could be taxed. Probably not going to happen anytime soon. Still, now, the Bitcoin network demands a staggering amount of energy. Today, it uses as much power as the Netherlands to maintain its normal operations. That load must be particularly obvious to the Chinese government, since a recent Nature Communications paper estimated that 75% of all Bitcoin mining happens in China. This picture here is actually one that is pretty telling. It's two gentlemen in a warehouse-like situation with racks and racks and racks and racks of GPUs that are all farming cryptocurrency. Imagine this. Cryptocurrency was so popular, was so lucrative for these people that entire towns in China, they had decommissioned, closed, coal-fired plants that were no longer useful. The business went away, the people weren't using it. But then they found out that they could, fire operations back up, get the plant back up and running, mine coal all over again, and use the energy, not for people, not for towns, not for businesses, but to strictly run graphics cards to mine cryptocurrency. And they were turning a profit. Obviously, China's going to look at that and go, that's a lot of wasted energy for a coin, for a currency that we cannot regulate, that we cannot control, and we need to put a crackdown on this. So they're saying that essentially by doing this, they are removing 3/4 of a Netherlands from their energy load. So there you go. They mentioned that the combination of Bitcoin's high price and its tremendous energy demand has pushed miners to take extreme positions. Miners in China have flocked to provinces such as Inner Mongolia, where cheap coal power makes mining more profitable, as I just said. The scale of these facilities reflects how much money investors have sunk into the project. At least one mining facility in Inner Mongolia draws more than 50 megawatts of power. Other large operations are popping up in the U.S. In upstate New York, a private equity firm has revamped an abandoned power plant just to mine Bitcoin. When its data centers are completed, mining will consume 79% of the power plant's capacity, or 85 megawatts. That's a risky move, seeing that like $1 trillion wiped out of cryptocurrency in a week just because China said they were going to ban it. We've seen facilities like that, in Mongolia, in China, in Brazil, places like that. It makes almost no sense to mine your cryptocurrency in the United States because we pay a lot in taxes and our energy is relatively expensive, because of all the regulation. For this private equity firm to actually revamp and mine their own cryptocurrency with a power plant, man, that sounds like such a bad idea. Yeah, and I'm actually digging through this other article to find out what kind of power plant it actually was. So they're saying it was a once abandoned power plant. Atlas Holdings, Reed Hast. Let's see. So by the end of the year, 18,000 specialized machines mining Bitcoin. Let's see. I'm trying to see what kind of power plant it is again, and I'm not seeing. Let's see. So, claiming it would violate New York law by discharging high temperature water into the streams and lakes, and those discharges could increase the likelihood of harmful algae bloom. Yeah, I'm not seeing exactly what it was. Either way, what a crazy idea. But, for Bitcoin to be worth $63,000, it might have made all the sense in the world to do that. And then a week or, 2, 3, 4 weeks later, for Bitcoin to be worth $34,000, it might make no absolute financial sense to do that. But these equity firms, they're going to plan for the long run and they're going to keep trying. So still, China likely to ban mining now. Again, they had already placed bans on holding transactions and things like that. Now to actually generate it is something that they're looking to crack down on as well. Speaking on cracking down on things that probably won't work, let's talk about Florida, the good old Sunshine State. And this article here from The Verge saying that Florida governor signs into law blocking companies from quote-unquote deplatforming Florida politicians. Deplatforming, the great equalizer, the idea that, private companies should be run as private companies and should not, the government should not have regulations in place to tell them how to run their company, meets that company is not performing or not doing things the way that I would like. We got to make sure that we don't deplatform people. So there's a lot of nuance here, and yeah, we can definitely talk about this because this, I'm sure, falls into things like Section 230, what is a common space, all this kind of thing. So from The Verge, McKenna Kelly talking about the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, signed a bill on Monday that bars social media companies like Twitter and Facebook from knowingly deplatforming politicians. And the bill, which is SB 7072, was proposed in February, weeks after former President Donald Trump was banned from Facebook and Twitter after the deadly right-wing riot on the U.S. Capitol. Not going to get into that. There you go. The law bars social media platforms from banning Floridian politicians, and authorizes the Florida Election Commission to impose fines if these candidates were to be deplatformed. The fines range from $250,000 per day for statewide office candidates and $25,000 per day for non-statewide offices. So there you go. Saying that, quote, "This will lead to more speech, not less speech," DeSantis said during a press conference. Saying that because speech that's inconvenient to the narrative will be protected. There you go. Many are already skeptical about the new law's legality, with the tech-friendlier Chamber of Progress calling it clearly unconstitutional. Which, by the way, some laws, and I think this is going to be one of them, some laws are just passed just because they want the legal fight. They want the challenge in the state Supreme Court, in the national Supreme Court. They want to have that legal battle again. And they need something that they can hold up and point to and say, this is unconstitutional, or we feel this needs to be overturned for these amount of reasons. So sometimes they pass things just so that they can actually have the fight again. Now, as a state law, the measure could be overturned if courts find it in conflict with Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which broadly makes platforms immune and completely not liable for good faith moderation activity. It could also be subject to a constitutional challenge under the First Amendment, which has been interpreted to broadly prevent government interference to corporate speech. And one would argue that making Twitter and Facebook, making them have to, have accounts, and enforcing them to essentially broadcast these political hopefuls and make them broadcast their message, that changes their corporate speech, because they now have to, carry and broadcast and keep these people on their platforms. Now, but regardless of its legal status, the measure will help DeSantis' political bona fides among the anti-tech wing of the Republican Party. For years, Republicans have pressured platforms like Facebook over their content moderation policies, accusing the company of being biased against conservative speech. Although we have seen things in the recent past that show that they are not, including studies and one internal communication from the one, the only, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, saying that he has disproportionately censored not conservative viewpoints because he did not want to come out as someone who censors conservative viewpoints. They've changed the algorithm to, not block speech from more conservative viewpoints, because it was caught in their bots too much, or, as they say, too much for, the language that they used. So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. But by and large, essentially what they're saying is, hey, they don't like the way that Facebook and Twitter censors conservative talking points, and they want that legal fight again, that legal challenge. Now, the vice president of the General Counsel for Net Choice, a trade group representing large tech companies like Facebook and Amazon, argued that the law could be found to be unconstitutional, saying that if this law could somehow be enforced, it would allow lawful but awful users to post, including pornography, violence, and hate speech, that will make it harder for families to safely navigate online. Imagine if you actually did hold public office in Florida, in some small way, in some small state, whatever, and you did something that was clearly outside the moderation. We could use a subtle example like, calling, calls for violence and things like that, which, could be interpreted one way or the other. Or it could be straight up, let's just use pornography since it was used in the article here. You could post daily pornography videos to Twitter that would clearly violate the terms of service that they've laid out. But then, you're a politician and you are exempt from being banned from the platform. And so they have to leave it up and leave all the communications up in their entirety. Taking things to their logical conclusion, or I should say their logical extreme, is something that lawyers do all the time. And, a good way to see if something is constitutional is it protected in all ways? And does it make sense to be protected in all ways? Now, with that being said, earlier this month, Facebook's oversight board upheld the platform's ban on the former president, but called on the company to create new rules on imposing permanent suspensions. Facebook has 6 months to write the new policy to decide whether the former president should be allowed back on Facebook-owned social media platforms. All in all, again, we really don't like it when politics get in the way of technology, but by and large, technology, and hey, that's why we love doing the show, technology intersects every part of our lives, politics notwithstanding. So there you go. It's no great answer here, and I gotta say that being from Florida, DeSantis was never really my favorite, but yeah, this seems like a good way to have that fight once again. So there you have it. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. How about something fun? Okay, this one's fun enough. It's fun if you enjoy Robert De Niro. I'm assuming you do. Who doesn't like Robert De Niro? Well, turns out the Germans probably like him, which would make sense for this article. Check this one out. This artificial intelligence makes Robert De Niro perform lines in flawless German. I assume he does not speak German naturally. So let's see. This is developed by a company called Flawless, which we can see here. Let's see. Product. I think this is the product right here. TrueSync. Okay. Here it is, and we're going to mute it and hope that we don't get banned from YouTube for playing a Robert De Niro clip. But here we are. Actually, we're going to have to unmute this, I think, if we're going to get the full effect of this, because obviously being able to perform these lines. So this is a scene from something or other. Let's see. So after a foreign version of the then most recent movie Heist, which stars De Niro, man says he was appalled by how the dubbing ruined the carefully crafted scenes. Dubbing sometimes involved changing dialogue significantly in an effort to make it more closely match an actor's lip movements, saying that I remember being devastated. You make a small change in a word or a performance, it can have a large change on a character in the story beat, and in turn on the film. So this is a way to, preserve the actor's performance in different languages. So we're going to go ahead and give this a try. Hopefully the volume isn't too loud. And let's see, we're going to do this here. Take this down here and...
Ja. Sag mir nicht, das war das Handgeld. Wer?
Vaughn. 2 others.
Sicher?
Positive.
Wo sind sie?
On a bus.
Fassen wir zusammen. Ein Mann, den wir gestern gefeuert haben, klaut 3 Millionen.
So, and for those who can't see this, the lip movements don't match up perfectly with German, because obviously Robert De Niro is speaking English, not German. But it translates very, very well. And it must have, because normally I can understand De Niro. Now I can't, because he's speaking German. So therefore it must have worked. But by and large, it's, this was a technology by Flawless AI. And it really just goes to show that this AI can, he's saying that the art is in the science, and essentially they're able to preserve the performance of an actor by changing the dialogue to better match, to better match the performance. Essentially, you don't have to have either De Niro learn German or spell his performance out phonetically in German. You don't have to have some voiceover person redo the movie and potentially, kind of change the meaning of the performance to better match, kind of the lip syncing. Instead, you just have it straight, from De Niro to De Niro, same voice, same everything. It's just one speaking English, one speaking German, and hopefully everything matches all that much, all the better. How well it actually did, I guess I would need to know German how perfectly it did, but yeah, didn't really strike me as anything too different here. And on this, they even show a scene from Face Off where I think it's like You Can't Handle the Truth, that whole scene, how they're able to change the actor's words as best as they can. So Man says that Flawless AI is also looking at how his technology could help studios avoid costly reshoots by having an actor appear to say new lines. But he says some actors are a little unsettled as they see themselves manipulated using AI, saying that there's a fear, and there's fear and wow. They're the two reactions I keep getting. It makes sense. I mean, most actors nowadays sign a clause that if you sign on for a multi-billion-dollar budget movie, that you allow yourself to be redone artificially. That artificial intelligence, if something happens, if someone dies, ever since Paul Walker, I believe, died during filming, they agree that, we will finish this movie one way or another, with or without you. And yeah, actors are a little concerned because they're seeing that, their faces, their acting ability, the way that they say things, what they say, all of it is now completely capable of being changed by computer. And that scares some actors, it seems. So with that being said, let's see. So there are legitimate and ethical uses of this technology, but any use of such technology must be done only with the consent of the performers involved and with the proper and appropriate compensation. So there you go. Yep, there you have it. AI getting better and able to redo actors' voices and language, actually change it straight from English to German, which I think a lot of people would say that'd be a very good thing, because obviously not every actor is going to learn every language, and you get to preserve as much of that performance as you possibly can. I think a lot of people would say that that's a good thing, but hey, we'll wait and see because when it comes to technology, everyone always assumed that technology was going to do the very mundane, redundant things, very, very quickly and very well, and replace all those people and the need for those people. Like if you pick up a box and move a box there, technology is going to move that box for you much more efficiently than a human ever would. And a lot of people assume that art, music, movies, acting, painting, things like that would be much more insulated from artificial intelligence and robots, and those would be the only jobs left, would be the creative jobs. We're quickly finding out that the jobs that need a little bit more nuance, painting and stuff like that, while everything that technology will produce is very, I would say repetitive, is very, you have to put in a bunch of data, and then whatever you get out is going to be a mix of that data. But to create new things from that data, once you put in a billion songs, once you put in a billion pieces of art, painting, once you put in a billion sculptures, the artificial intelligence can then obviously it could reproduce any of those, but it can also make something that's in between all of those. And that in itself is what artists do to an extent. You know, they are trained, they see other art, they are inspired to make new art that is a version or a variation of said art. And we're finding out that robots, it looks like some of those jobs that we would have considered to be future-proof or robot-proof are actually, in danger, I guess would be a way to put it. So, everyone, let's go ahead and continue on. Speaking of danger, NFTs. There's a new one sold. After Disaster Girl, after, the guy who was perpetually stoned, that gentleman also sold his pretty recently. And now we have a new one to add to the list. And it's Charlie Bit My Finger. If you know the one, two British kids sitting there being filmed, and Charlie bites the other, his brother Harry's finger. Well, how much is this worth? Turns out that originally, this thing has been sitting at, ever since 2007, this thing has been sitting at 880 million views, almost a billion views. And that, the money that has already come from this video has already bought the family a new house to live in. Like, this thing was insanely popular, and let's face it, a viral sensation, I think, as most people expect. Now, here we go. This is one of the original viral videos. They just sold it for $760,000. Just a dollar short of $761,000. Here's the thing, though, and something that a lot of other people haven't, because, up until now we've seen like photos and, maybe other videos and other memes, but, and obviously things like first tweets and whatever. Since this is a video that has been up there for 14 years, it looks like they're actually going to take it down. Yep. They're going to take down the video off YouTube with all of its views, and then potentially put it somewhere else and, say that they now own the original. So they mentioned that bits came into their auction page throughout the weekend, but the price dramatically increased in the final hours on Sunday, saying that the bidding battle was between two anonymous accounts. 3F Music eventually outbid Meme Master for the video, which has been watched more than 880 million times. The clip was due to be removed from the video sharing platform on the 23rd of May following the auction, but at the moment, it's still there for now. So obviously we've been through non-fungible tokens. Essentially, it's a way to put a mark on something and say that this is the original. As long as you have the token, you have, the rights to the token. Yes, there can be, infinite copies of Charlie Bit My Finger, but as the creators of the video, they can then sell this token and prove that this version, this copy of the original is in fact the original. Whoever owns that NFT owns the original. When we talk about this, every time we talk about this, I always say, to me, I'm sure to a lot of people out there, owning the original of something that everyone else has an exact duplicate of really takes a lot of the value out of it. But NFTs are all the rage, and hey, high art is a scam. So there you go. Now, with that being said, the article continues on here. Sunday spending spree means that the mysterious anonymous bidder will become the owner of the Charlie Bit My Finger clip, but it also gives them a chance to create some follow-up content. The auction page says that the NFT winner will be given the opportunity to recreate a hilarious modern-day rendition of the classic clip that will feature the original stars, Harry and Charlie. There you go. Now, age 17 and 15 is the right time for Harry and Charlie to embrace the next iteration of the internet. The video was uploaded to YouTube by their father in 2007 because he couldn't email it to their godparents in America. Seems like file data limits have given birth to a meme. The family website says that the clip was filmed as part of a catching a random moment as the boys were growing up, and that it was unintentional and that it went viral. So there you go. Turning a 14-year-old video into not just already hundreds of thousands of dollars, because again, the video has already made them that much money, but to then turn it around and sell it as an NFT, I think that NFTs, until they die down, I mean, this NFT craze is only going to continue, and anything that could be considered a meme, I bet, is going to eventually go up for auction at some point. And right now, the getting's good. So there you have it. Okay, we have time for one more story, I think. This one looked fun. From The Verge. Cheese. Who doesn't love cheese? Well, check this one out. This one happened to catch a criminal that, was then given 13 years, saying that it's generally a good idea to be careful about the photos that you share online. Share a photo of your vaccination card, for example, and you risk revealing your full birth name and date of birth, which opens you up to the possibility of identity theft. I saw this myself on social media. Someone was finally happy that they were going through a divorce and, kind of took a picture of their marriage certificate, which had their full name, their spouse's full name, social security number, address, current address, former address. It had everything that you could possibly want to steal the identity of two people. And then of course they took the video of burning the marriage certificate. But all in all, I was like, man, people are not careful. So let's talk about this one. Now they said that they've, The Verge has the UK's Merseyside police to thank for the worrying revelation, saying that after they successfully identified a drug dealer, Carl Stewart, and convicted him of conspiracy to supply cocaine, heroin, MDMA, and ketamine with the help of a simple photo of a wedge of Stilton, with a wedge of cheese. It's not clear why he posted the picture of the blue cheese, but Stewart has now been sentenced to 13 years and 6 months in prison after pleading guilty to the charges, which include transferring criminal property. So, let's talk about this. Stewart seems to have made 2 errors sharing his cheesy photo. The first was that the photo contained a linear image of his fingerprints and palm, which the police were able to analyze and use to identify him. Stewart isn't the first criminal to have been convicted using fingerprints identified from from a photograph, but it's yet another reminder that your fingerprints are far from top secret identifiers we often consider them to be. Because, I think that a lot of people out there obviously assume that if you want to use your fingerprints to unlock something, like your phone, you have to press it up against it. The idea of just taking a picture of your fingerprint should not be enough to actually, be able to identify you. But turns out it is, especially to law enforcement. Second is that he shared the photo on EncroChat, that supposedly encrypted phone system that was compromised by authorities last March, compromised, which now comprise of authorities, leaving its security with more holes than Swiss cheese. Since then, Merseyside police say authorities have identified around 10,000 of its users in the UK who are all involved in coordinating and planning the supply and distribution of drugs and weapons, money laundering, and other criminal activity. A total of 60,000 of its users have been identified worldwide. Essentially, and I definitely recall that they were able to compromise the underlying encryption protocol that this. Think of it as a social media for criminals, where, if you want to do criminal activity and you want to connect with people who want to facilitate in that criminal activity, again, things like buying and selling drugs and weapons, or laundering money, or kidnapping people, or anything like that, you use this service. I have no idea why people are still using it. And by the way, obviously, if you can't tell from the picture, which is again just a gentleman holding a piece of cheese, it is still social media. And criminals, hey, they're like everyone else. They want to share their day-to-day with each other. So he took a picture of his fingerprints and was then identified using that photo. Pretty crazy stuff. And everyone, music means that we're about done here. Thank you for tuning into the show, and I'm glad that we could leave you with such a strange story. Be careful with the photos that you put out there. You know, the information that they have is important, and the information you don't even know they contain could be even more important. So, everyone, that's computer technology news. We're working on some things behind the scenes to get some more interviews up and running. Everyone, thank you for tuning into the program Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Tune in tomorrow for more Computer America, and have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.